So, hello everyone, and welcome to another Forex Trading podcast of ours, Home Trader Club community. I'm very happy to have Peter Varcoe here with us today for the second time since we started this nice routine and hopefully to continue with that. For all those of you who know Peter, no need of introduction. For those who do not, we are talking here about one of the, I would say, most experienced traders in our community, over than 24 years, of experience, veteran trader, author of, which from my point of view is one of the best, probably the best book about the technical patterns and how to trade them properly. And if you did not read this book, make yourself a favor, make 2024 an interesting start and read this book. You can find our link directly below this video in the description. Peter, welcome.
Hi Vlad, how are you?
I'm very well, especially when Excellent. I look outside, I see the sun. So it's finally not just in Panama, it's also here in Canada, a few sunny days, right?
Yeah. I'm at a friend's restaurant. The signal where I live is not good enough to support Zoom video, so we've got traffic noise in the background, and I apologize for that. But to get decent bandwidth for Zoom video, I can't do it from where I live.
At some point, you know that I told you many times, right? I'm jealous because your choice is amazing. It's you the way to disconnect. Purely disconnect, enjoy nature, enjoy everything that nature has to bring to us, and I salute you for that.
Well, mate, we live on a farm. We're about 8 kilometers out of town. We're about 850 feet above sea level. We look east to the Pearl Islands and Panama City, and the view goes around to the northwest.
Honestly, is there anything in you still missing to the old days of Australia?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. I mean, we saw the writing on the wall years ago. I mean, Australia's just become an absolute hellhole. But the way everything's gone, it's just crazy stuff. All the governments, state governments, leftist governments, socialist governments, the federal government's socialist, and their whole agenda is just wasteful, print money, spend money, and they don't make any sense.
Panama isn't like that yet?
Well, not where we are. We're on a farm. We're out in the country.
Right. Central America is still behind.
It's a nice place. We're out of the cities. We're over cities. We're on a farm. It's a nice place. We've got a good view, usually a good breeze. It's a nice work environment, post-industrial age work environment.
And how is the Panama City compared to all that?
Oh, mate, it's just a rat race. We avoid it like the plague.
How often do you find yourself going to the city?
I haven't been to the city for 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. We also live in a suburb out of Toronto.
Yeah.
But, growing up with kids here, 11 and 8 years old, they want all the city life once in a while. Everything the city has to offer. It's amazing for kids, but I totally understand you. I try to avoid it as much as possible. I enjoy opening the window, looking at the forest. It's filling my soul.
Excellent.
All right, great. So for today, I hope you are fine with that. I prepared some very interesting subjects. Not classically, I know it's Forex talk and everything, but I don't want to talk directly about trading, like charts and everything today. I want to talk about, I would say, the things around that affect trading in a ways that not everyone possibly understand, or in a way that we're just not aware of, right?
Yeah.
So we have the inflation. the one that the public is aware of, and the one that is really happening behind the scenes. We will talk about the elections in the U.S. Of course, it's not only in the U.S., but as the rule of thumb, everyone's attention is to what will happen in the U.S. because it affects all the other parts of the world. We will talk about how the ongoing wars between Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Gaza really affect or could affect the markets, because from one side, these are the most, according to many, both Israel and the Gaza are, if you compare it to the chessboard, these are the most irrelevant pawns you can sacrifice. But these pawns could open up a board in a way that the whole world is going to be under a checkmate. And we will talk about at the end some of the currencies which Peter believes would be the most relevant in 2024. So let's start. Inflation, right? In 2022, if my memory doesn't betray me, the inflation rate in US only crossed for the first time over 9%. Then it dropped, it was going around the 8% for a while before things started to somehow straighten and go lower. Today it's slightly above 3%. The destination, according to the Fed, was and remains 2%. My question is, are these numbers actually, how do you see that? Are these numbers real? Because realistically speaking, what is presented to us, the people, and what happens behind the scenes are somehow lost any connection. People cannot afford today. I'm not even talking about houses, but basic things like going and on vacation, family vacation. Many families. I judge based on what I see here, right? I'm surrounded by the mid-class people. I see that every day from school, everywhere, gym, everywhere. People cannot afford the basic things in a way they could just like 3-4 years ago. So how do you see this? The whole situation that started to change several years ago, was it all artificially driven by COVID? Was it everything planned? How do you think it's going to affect from now on?
Hello.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep, sorry, mate. Look, there's a lot of manipulation in the figures that are published. Right, the inflation is more than 3.5% in the United States. All you got to do is look at energy costs, for argument's sake. Same in Australia. When we left Australia 9.5 years ago, our quarterly electricity bill was $1,700. It's now more than double that. It's actually 3 times that.
Wow.
This is just this whole energy costs are a major driver for people, because they need heat, they need cool. They need heat in the winter, and they need cool in the summer. And this whole climate alarmism madness is just so much garbage. There's a guy in the States, Steve, can't remember his surname, Steve Kirsch. He's got out, and he's had an offer out for $2 million to anyone who can get him a peer-reviewed paper that proves that global warming is man-made. That's been sitting on the table for 5 years. No one's been able to do it. All right, and in the meantime, energy costs are going through the roof because they're moving away from cheap, affordable energy to basically intermittent wind farms and solar farms, which don't work when the wind doesn't blow and don't work when the sun doesn't shine. So that's a major cost for people, is energy. the United States used to be a net exporter of energy.
Right.
Now they're a net importer. No, it's just crazy.
So
Right?
you
And
think that
inflation.
what the public sees, which is presented to the public, is basically just numbers that should hide the real story.
But yeah, well, you've only got to look at how they manipulate the CPI figures.
Yeah.
So the CPI is based on a basket of goods, right? And what they do is they include brands, and when the inflation gets too high, they actually swap out the branded products with the generic brands, and then say, "See, it hasn't gone up as much as you thought it did."
Right.
I mean, that's an old trick that they use with CPI figures, right? I mean, the Biden administration talk about the Putin price hike. When you have a look at oil, WTI, the day of the 2020 election, oil was $38.21 a barrel.
Right.
When Russia went into Ukraine, it was $95 a barrel. That price hike happened before Russia went into Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
That was all policy driven by the US government.
What do you think is their real interest behind such thing?
Well, it's about getting people dependent on the government.
Sorry?
It's about getting people to be dependent on the government.
Right.
Then the government is in control. Every time inflation goes through the roof, it's caused by socialist spending policies.
Mm-hmm.
All right? They just spend and spend and spend.
True.
And you know, when you have a look at conservative government, I'm an equal opportunity hater, by the way. I don't like politicians. End of story. And I believe there should be an open season on politicians, 1 week every 6 months with no bag limit. You can get a hunting license for politicians. Go and shoot a couple of them. That'll smarten them up.
Yeah. That's very true.
But yeah, look, and yet you see it globally. The whole madness on climate change is just garbage. The oceans have been a lot higher than they are today. They've been a lot lower than they are today. It was well before man actually had anything to do with anything. And carbon dioxide, the whole war on carbon dioxide is plant food, and it drought proofs plants because they take in the carbon dioxide, they expel oxygen. But the more carbon dioxide there is, the less they need to shed water. They're much more drought proofed because of the way they work.
They always it seems like there is always a way to justify further ongoing manipulations, control, and so on in prices. As you say, in energy, the way everything shifted. If it's COVID years ago, if it's the climate, which is the current trend and probably the trend for the next decade or more. But there's always something.
In the early 1970s, when I was still in high school, the climate policy was that we're heading for a new ice age. Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock from Star Trek, he actually did a commercial advertisement spouting about the coming ice age and how things were getting colder and colder all the time. That was in 1973.
And look how everything changed since.
Yep. It's all about power and all about control. The whole Patrick Moore, Dr. Patrick Moore, Canadian. He was one of the founding members of Greenpeace. All right, he got out of Greenpeace after it got flooded by the Eastern bureaucrats after the fall of the Soviet Union. They became a militant climate zealot group. He was one of the founders of Greenpeace. He got out of it for the very reason. His latest book, Fake Invisible Conspiracies and Threats of Doom, is a brilliant read.
I don't remember when I saw one of the interviews with I think you sent me the link actually.
Very possibly.
Huh?
Very possibly.
Yeah. And it was really brilliant to see like a person who comes from inside with
Yep.
with the idea or of a concept, and actually exposes how everything shifted to the wrong places, how everything starts to be like the original idea is completely gone, and now the focus is how to manipulate, how to twist all that into the political needs and
Yeah.
mainly the energy prices.
Yeah. It's about political control.
Speaking about energies, what do you think about this whole movement to the new electrical world, electrical cars, electrical solutions on everything in our lives? Is it just another way to control people better, or is it legit one to somehow make things greener?
Okay. There's a lot.
It's a big sum.
There's a lot to unpack in that. If you're in support, if you're in support of electric vehicles, you like child exploitation and child slavery because of the lithium mines and the lithium mines in Congo. It's all basically predominantly child labor, child slave labor, mining the lithium for the lithium ion batteries.
But we can say the same about the clothes we are wearing, right? It's like in Bangladesh, Vietnam, China, everywhere. We can say the same.
Yeah, but they're not going down into dangerous
True.
Mining. But at least people are making their clothes. It's basically they're in a decent building making clothes. Right? You look at the EVs and have a look at the additional costs. I mean, the battery packs only last about 10 years, if that. And it's $40,000 to replace the battery pack in an electric vehicle. Think that one through.
Yeah.
Right? You can't go any decent distance. I mean, in the United States and in Australia, there are actual fistfights breaking out at charging stations.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, right? And in a country like Australia, which is bigger than the lower 48 states of the US, with a population of 25, 27 million, it's big, vast distances you've got to go. And the electric vehicles just don't have the range. They do not have the range. Then on top of that, when they get because the battery packs are basically part of the subframe, when they're involved in a smash, most of the time the car is written off. Therefore, the insurance costs on them are skyrocketing at the moment. When they catch fire, when the battery packs catch fire, they're impossible to put out. They destroy the whole car. Gone.
So
look at this is the sort of thing that's going through the roof. Insurance prices for an electric vehicle have gone up by 1,000% in Australia in the last 2 years.
1,000%.
1,000%, 10 times.
I was watching one podcast on the subject, also reading several articles with brilliant minds on the subject that they all claim that the true disaster that all this switch to the new electrical world is yet to come, a decade or two, and all these lithium batteries will start to, we will not know how to really deal with them, with all the masses of the batteries that we are going to create, the level of the explosion, the level of all the
Exactly. And then what are you going to do with them when they're no good anymore? You can't recycle them.
Right.
I've seen several studies now where of all the known lithium deposits in the world, there is not enough to make the batteries for all the cars they want to be electric. There's just not enough lithium.
Do you believe there will be alternative solution, or the oil is here to stay?
Look, at the end of the day, you can't get rid of oil. It's a cheap form of energy.
Right. And
I don't think you'll get rid of it. I don't think you're going to get rid of coal-fired power stations either. I mean, China's building 30, I think it's 36 or 38 coal-fired power stations. They're under construction currently. It might even be more than that. All right. And Australia's blowing up coal-fired power stations and then running blackouts at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Just crazy.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something we can easily agree on. I also don't believe that the oil is going anywhere.
No.
We might see the electrical needs under increase, but yeah, the oil is here to stay. It's too much depends on it. Too many countries rely on that, and it's not going anywhere under these other circumstances.
Well, you've only got to have a look at the policies around this. I mean, look at what happened in Sri Lanka. Right? They were told they were not allowed to use nitrate fertilizers. Right? So their rice crop went from 4 tons per hectare to 600 kilos per hectare of rice. That brought about the famine, the starving, and the revolt against the government.
Right.
Same thing happened in Ghana.
In?
It's crazy.
In where?
Ghana, Ghana, near Nigeria. Near Nigeria.
I never heard of that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's not widely publicized because it doesn't fit the narrative.
It's scary to think about it. These things.
Yeah. But you look at inflation. It's just basically socialist policies they created. They just spend, right? And from the central bank's point of view, when your only solution is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Yep, that's
right.
Put together.
And what we've also got to remember is that these central banks are not government institutions; they're private cartels. They sit on each other's boards. Right? Nathan Rothschild, when he got hold of the Bank of England after Waterloo, he said, "As long as I control the currency, I care not what puppet they put on the throne."
They just find a way to.
Yeah, so as soon as you understand all of that, then you understand they've got their own agenda, and they're not pushing a government agenda. They're manipulating everything to work to their own benefit.
Right.
When you understand that, things make a lot more sense.
That's very true. So do you think there will be sometime soon a day at the pre-inflation level that we knew in terms of prices and everything will get back, or
it'll come back down,
or
it'll come back down? I mean, look what happened in 2007-8 with what they called the global financial crisis. I mean, you could see it happening. You could see it coming. I mean, these things they don't suddenly happen. You look at the equities markets coming into from 2003 to 2004, coming into the end of 2007. That was a 4.5-year bull run on equities markets. Well, the run into the 1987 crash was 5.25 years.
So people will just have to learn to live with the new prices and the new level of.
Yeah, look, I don't know the prices will come back down, but the inflation rate's going to come back down. So that will happen, but it's just going to take time, and it's going to take fiscal responsibility on parts of governments globally to make it happen. But these things that I talk about risk and trade management a lot, as you're aware, and any of us that have been around for any length of time coming into end of 2007 knew it was going to happen. We knew it was coming. I mean, Janice was a financial planner, and she's coming into the end of 2007. I had 22 open positions on Australian companies, Australian 300 ASX 300 companies, and from September to December, I exited 20 and shorted 19 of those 20. Right, you could see it happen. It was coming. All the signs were there. So these things don't happen in seclusion. They happen, and when you know how to read the signs, you can see it happen, and either get out of the market or take advantage of the shorts if you know how to do it. So these things happen. They come and they go. And the last big one was 2007, 8, and It finished in March of 2009, and then it's been recovery since. So
Yeah.
it comes, it goes. Inflation rates will come. They'll rise. They'll fall. The prices are probably not going to come back down, but at least the inflation rate will start to slow.
Which is
Which
another
will manage it.
classical way to see how all these numbers presented to us are, pure manipulation.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was listening here to a video from I forgot the name, one of the leaders here, when he was introduced the question like all about the prices and the changes people experience, energy, houses, everything. What did he claim? But look at the chicken. When you go to the supermarket, the chicken price didn't change. You still pay like $10 or $11. I was like, the life is still in the same cost. So really, is it all about chicken? You know what? Interesting. I watched Professor Milton's interview in one of the videos. Brilliant guy.
He is.
And he said one of the easiest and best explanations I heard about inflation and everything was basically very simple. And the cause of all the inflation is basically who? It's us, the people. Why? Because people are sold the dream of less taxes, better infrastructures, free education, free medicine, right? Free whatever. And people really want everything bigger, better, cheaper. Because of that, people go and vote for all those politicians who basically promise that in this or other way around. But what people do not understand that all these wishes have costs, have expenses, money that has to come out of something, somewhere. It's not always printing new money, right? So basically, for the wish of us, the people, to get better education, free education, better conditions, lower taxes, and so on and so on, we basically create a way that they borrow money from the future in order to provide us the level of life or the expectancy of life, the lifestyle that we want or what we vote for. And at some point, somebody has to pay for that. So there is always in a decade
every debt gets paid. Either the lender or the borrower pays for it.
Yeah.
If the borrower doesn't pay it back, the lender has absorbed the debt.
Right.
All right.
And then it comes back on us as taxes increase, or they find a way to justify it. Was it COVID? Yeah. And everyone like, oh yeah, it's COVID, so prices go up. COVID is over, then the inflation. Now it's the inflation. Next time it will be was the war, then the climate change, then so on. But there is always some story to sell to the public, how to justify the increase of everything. So we start to pay for everything we voted for 10 or 20 years ago.
Exactly. I'm reminded of a saying from Winston Churchill: if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative in your 30s, you have no brain.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
All these debts get paid. I mean, have a look at universities. They're doing stupid courses that people can't get a job with. They're charging them a fortune for it, and the government's paying for it.
Yeah.
So the taxpayers are already paying for it. Crazy.
I heard yesterday, I think, or when was it? That Biden keeps erasing the debt more and more and more, like under the ground between the lines, right? It's
well, I mean, the whole thing with Ukraine is just ridiculous, and the funding of Ukraine. They're funding Ukraine to protect Ukraine's borders, but they're not protecting their own borders.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about getting millions of people into the country, and it doesn't even matter whether they vote. They'll get included in the next census, and there'll be extra congressional seats created because of them, and they'll all be supported by people who vote for socialism.
Yeah. Next subject, if you don't mind. That's something that I personally have a lot of interest in because it will affect also Canada and
Yeah.
the other relevant countries where I have family in. So the coming elections, it's everywhere. It will be in Britain, it will be in many other places. But as we said at the beginning,
I believe it's about 40 countries this year.
yeah. It's a lot of elections coming. But again, the main one, like with the inflation, it happens everywhere. But everyone follows what happens in the US because it affects all the rest. So with usually, you know how it is, right? The year of the elections, the market is breaking new highs, which we pretty much see happening again since January 2024. Here is what I would like from all your experience, everything you saw on the market. Do you think that this is happening again? We are peaking, we create a new all-time high right before it is setting up the change of the direction and a drop that will follow after that, or the market is in really good improving conditions and we will just keep rolling.
Well, equities going up the way they are at the moment shouldn't be happening with interest rates going up the way they are. That they are normally diametrically opposed.
Right.
So interest rates go up, equity values go down because the cost of doing business goes up. The cost of the loans businesses take out goes up, and therefore they don't have as much profit.
Right, and now it all happens differently.
Yeah, I mean that's a simplistic way of putting it, but that's essentially the cost of their operational capital is going up. Therefore, their profit in the interest payments is coming down.
Right.
And the equity values shouldn't be climbing the way they are with the way the interest rates went up that quickly.
So from your point of view, how is it going to affect it?
Sorry?
From your perspective and your point of view, how the current situation, the reality we live in, where the equities and the markets are not as usual in the opposite behavior.
It's not going the way it should be. It really isn't. I mean, in Australia, there's been 13 interest rate rises in the less than 2 years that the Labor government has been in place. Right, 11 consecutive interest rate rises from when the Australian Labor Party got voted in May of 2022. That's just crazy, absolutely crazy. And equities rates shouldn't be going up the way they are because of that. The cost of borrowing capital for the companies has increased, so that eats more into their profit, and their profit should. And at the end of the day, the prices are moved by sentiment more so than facts. But yeah, there's a lot of things economically that are not making sense. And
according to the expectations, when would you expect it to actually explode?
Don't know. I can't see 2008 happening anytime soon. But I think a lot of equities are overvalued at the moment. But with interest rates, and here's something that a lot of people don't realise. Interest rates, when the banks start telling you to lock in your interest rate, they believe the interest rates have peaked and are about to come down. They're locking you in to give themselves the maximum profit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When banks start telling you to lock in your interest rate, get ready for a price down. That is a very good, and this is not financial advice, but it's general acceptance. At that point in time is one of the best times to actually buy investment property, because as interest rates go down, you have an organic growth in value.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the amount you can borrow depends on the interest rate, and the higher that is, the less capital you can actually borrow. When interest rates come down, the more capital you can actually borrow on the same income, which basically organically pushes property values up.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I mean that's just, it's not widely spread around because the banks don't want you to know about it, but it's well known in the financial planning industry. So when interest rates start to come down, those with equity and or capital are going to be in a prime position for acquisition.
Right, right. Do you think that does it matter who will actually win the elections? Will that affect the way that the market respond, or this bubble we currently reached and keep creating is basically the explosion of it? It's inevitable.
I don't know. I mean, the economic mess that everyone's got themselves into over the last few years, the asset values shouldn't be as high as they are. So I don't know what's going to happen.
I was reading a very interesting article saying that all the BRIC situation and the alternative they prepare for the day after US. So basically, Russia and China are already in a level where when they consider the right time, by few simple actions, which of course not described, right? But by few simple actions, they could lead to the, let's say, U.S. economical disaster. If it's by holding their papers or by all the money that they actually own them, they can create a chaos and lead to a catastrophic outcome in the U.S., which eventually go, of course, spread around the world. But they are prepared to that. They are preparing that with all these recent changes happening there. Do you think it's a reasonable assumption to believe that they actually are the ones to fear of, or is still the U.S.?
No, there's several facets to that. The BRICS countries are looking to admit a whole heap more countries into the bloc. They're moving away from the USD, and the United States is driving them away from the USD for settlement.
Yeah,
as they've done with Russia. I don't know whether you saw Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin, but I'm pretty sure it was 34% of their GDP was settled in yuan last year.
34%.
34. I'm pretty sure it was 34 of the GDP was settled in yuan. But Iran is selling China oil, settling in yuan. Russia is settling in rubles, the strongest currency in the world, because basically what they did when they got driven off the USD for settlement, then Putin just said, well, you got to settle in rubles. So everyone had to go and buy rubles to settle with Russian oil. Then they blew up the pipeline, and then Putin linked a barrel of oil to gold, and pseudo linked the ruble to gold, the strongest currency in the world at the moment. Right? And they're moving away from it. And they're doing deals with Nigeria for settlement of oil in non-USD. Right? And China has an enormous amount of US dollars, circulated bills, sitting in reserves at the moment. All they've got to do, and they're just waiting, when they go to take Taiwan, they will go to take Taiwan back. Xi has promised it. And the moment the United States interferes, China is ready to just dump all of their cash reserves into the market. You watch the US inflation when that happens. They'll go through the roof. And then if they dump all their T-bills as well, wow. That's financial catastrophe.
So do you think it's fair to say that for the sake of the world, as crazy as it sounds, maybe it is better for the US and for the world that Trump would be elected over Biden?
Well, look, again, like I said, I'm an equal opportunity hater. I don't like politicians. But with Trump, you can't ignore no new wars.
Right.
You can't ignore the Abraham Accords. You can't ignore pulling troops back out of these forever wars.
True.
All right? Whether you like him or hate him, you can't ignore that stuff. Best 70 years. Lowest unemployment rate in 65 years. He can do it. right? And as he said with Putin, he said, "You do this, I'll light Moscow up. I'll turn it into a firebomb." And Trump said, he thinks I'm a bit crazy, maybe 5%, but it's enough.
Yeah. I was listening
Right?
to Patrick Bet-David, a guy we both
Yeah.
enjoy to listen to his podcast. And then one of them, he actually presented a very interesting view. I didn't think about it before that. And he said before the first time when Trump was elected, the media sold everyone the wrong assumption that if you choose Trump, that means you vote for a world war. Basically, war everywhere because this guy is going to create a chaos. But if you choose Biden, of course, then you choose peace. But the interesting thing is that during Trump's first period, as you also said, there are wars besides, of course, everything that happened with ISIS, right, and the elimination of their leader. But there was some sort of feeling that the world is in more peaceful days. As soon as Biden stepped in,
Yep.
that's it. The chaos actually everywhere. Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, China, Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea, Somalia, Tehran, you name it, everywhere. So it really makes it wonder. Is Trump the problem or
Well, Trump's a businessman. Have you ever read his book, The Art of the Deal?
no?
It's a brilliant book. He came in. I had it many years ago, and he started doing stuff. I'm like, that's straight out of the book. That's straight out of The Art of the Deal. Right? He's a salesman. None of these politicians are effective salesmen.
True.
And you can't bluff Trump, right? It's like Elon Musk. I remember the interview with Elon Musk when he said they tried to bribe me. They tried to blackmail me with advertising dollars, blackmail me with money.
Yeah.
In a similar situation. I mean, he's got so much behind him, but you've got to remember where he came from. He came out of real estate in New York, dealing with the five families. All right, so he's had to deal with the mafia all his life in construction.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now people say he's got businesses that have gone bankrupt. Well, so what? He's had 500 companies. 3 of them have gone bankrupt. The average business that starts goes bankrupt inside of 18 months. 80% of them go inside of 18 months. 20% of the 20% left, half of them go in the next 2 years. So 500 companies and only 3 of them gone bankrupt. It's a pretty good track record.
Absolutely.
Pretty good track record. But he got hamstrung by the rhinos. He got hamstrung because the military was going behind his back and against him. You've only got to look at what Milley did, calling his counterpart in China before Trump left office. I mean, that's just crazy stuff. And something I wasn't aware of until very recently: your first star as a general is the highest you can be promoted to on your own merits. Everything after that is a political appointment.
Sorry, can you repeat everything?
Everything after that. So 2 and 3 and 4-star generals, they get those extra stars through politically being correct to the leader at the time. Right? You don't get a second star through merit. First star is the highest one you can get through merit, and everything else is a political appointment after that. Originally the United States had 14 4-star generals. Now they've got 44.
44.
Crazy stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have a look at the wars. I mean, you brought up Ukraine and Russia and Gaza and Israel. Well, they're 2 completely different, totally different animals. All right. Putin was only looking at the two provinces on the eastern side of Ukraine who wanted to go back to Russian rule. All right. Let's not forget, again, it's not widely publicized, but the Azov Brigade was lobbing 2,000 mortar bombs per month, just randomly into those 2 regions for 3 years before Putin went in. All right. They basically they told him that they were going to admit Ukraine into NATO. That's the line in the sand. He'll never let them cross that line. All right. NATO, when the USSR fell, NATO's closest border to Moscow was 1,000 kilometers. Now it's 100.
Whoa.
Right up the top there near Belarus. Right, NATO countries. He does not want his western border to be fully NATO occupied, and he's told them that. And then they were given assurances that would never happen. And then when Putin was complaining about it, he was told by the State Department that agreement was made with the USSR, not the Russian Federation.
When it all started, many people were asking me, where am I in all this situation? Because, as you know, I was born in Belarus. I have family in Belarus. I have family in Ukraine. I have family in Russia. And if you think about it, it's like it's like a brothers war, right?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, majority of people. I'm living outside of what is sold on the media and what people see on the media, because that's absolute propaganda, right? And that's just what they want everyone to believe. But in reality, majority of people understand the ones that really profit from all this war are, again, US and all their supporters, or let's call it the West, like they are represented. They are profiting from this war because they are making weakening Russia and everything. That's at least what they think. But they put it in a situation with NATO and everything that Russia simply have no choice. And according to many, they were prepared for that. And they have very specific plan for the day after, right? Because at some point, every war is coming to the end, and then the next step is coming in, and that's where it brings me back again. How will all these situations at Russia, Ukraine, Iran, and everything? They are not. Sorry, Russia, China, Iran, Nigeria, and other countries. They are not friends, but they have the shared enemy. And sometimes when you have a common enemy, these relationships are even stronger than a friendship, right? The hate to someone is someone leads to better, not partnerships, but sort of collaboration, right? Than any friendships, and that leads again to what will and how do you see that the current ongoing wars really are going to affect the economy on the next 5-10 years, maybe even beyond. But because the price is like, yeah, of course, every war has its instant impact, but there is the impact which we all will have to pay for over the next decade or two. So how do you see that situation with the current wars?
Well, Ukraine, Russia is problematic. I mean, that should have been over in May of 2022. Erdogan helped broker a peace deal between them in 2022, in May of 22. And Bojo went over and talked Zelensky into not accepting it. They promised that NATO would keep funding him.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Russia's the 7th most corrupt country in the world, and Ukraine's the most corrupt country in the world. Why is the United States taxpayer paying billions of dollars to the war machine in Ukraine when they're not fixing their own issues at home? It's crazy. All right. Have a look at the war machine stocks. Right. Have a look at that. Their military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned about in 1960 is reigning supreme. They want this war to go on because they're making a lot of money. All these donations and extending the war by the Democrats is basically putting money in the pockets of their major donors. who are the war machine. Think that through. Why are you sending $100 billion to Ukraine? There was a very funny photograph came out early in the war with Zelensky sitting at a table with big piles of $100 bills saying, I made $40 billion working from home. Ask me how.
Yeah, they found a soldier and they just pump it.
Yeah. I mean, Gaza, Israel is a religious issue. Right? Hamas is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. A very interesting question that no one is asking. Why are none of the other Islamic countries in that region taking people from Gaza?
Yeah, they don't want it.
No. Muslim Brotherhood overthrew the Egyptian government in 2010 or 2012. Right? And they tried to overthrow King Hussein in Jordan. None of the other countries around there want the Gazans.
None.
Right? Why is the head of Hamas sitting in Qatar with $15 billion? He was a pauper at one stage.
Yep.
Right? They're just funneling all the aid money is going into supporting Hamas and making the leaders very wealthy. When Israel handed Gaza back to them in 2005, there was 10 desalination plants working there. There was more than enough water for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Now they haven't got water. Why? They've destroyed the desalination plants.
Mm-hmm.
All right? I mean, no one around that region. Saudi won't take any of the Gazans. Egypt won't have them there. Neither will Jordan. They won't take them. Syria's got enough problems with Hezbollah. They're not taking any of them.
Yeah, well,
you got to ask yourself, why is none? If it's purely Islamic, you've got to ask yourself why none of the other Islamic countries are taking them. It's more than that. It's a lot more than that. It's about the whole narrative.
Way more.
Yeah,
and that's a very interesting point, because whatever happened in Syria, again, I'm not into politics and not everything, but just pure facts. The numbers that happened in Syria and happened in Somalia and other places are way beyond imagination, have way scariest numbers of deaths, of murders, of disaster than what happened in Israel, Gaza. But yet the whole pump is there, and it's
well, have a look at Pakistan.
Yeah,
Pakistan. Right? Look what they're doing to the refugee camps. They're bulldozing the Afghan refugee camps and kicking them all back into Afghanistan. That's not widely publicised.
Yeah.
No, it's just crazy stuff. But you know, if you know and understand a lot of this stuff, then you can take advantage of opportunities, or you can better see opportunities as they occur. Right? It's when you don't understand things like I said, things like federal banks, central banks.
Absolutely.
Right? And two very interesting books on the subject: Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin, and Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins.
What's
Mullins' book, Secrets of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
By Eustace Mullins.
I didn't read it.
Yeah. He actually shows the shareholding of the Fed when it was first formed by the Democrats in 1913, and he also showed the shareholding list of the Fed 1975, I think it was. Morgan Stanley and Citibank between them owned 62% of the Fed.
It's
so who's making the policies?
Unbelievable. So do
when
you
know and understand that, you can better see opportunities. You can see things start to make sense when you realise they're not basically government institutions. They've got their own agenda. All you got to do is figure out what their agenda is.
Do you think that these ongoing wars are sort of the way that the World War III is happening? They just chose their soldiers to fight with, or the pawns they sacrifice in a world war, trying to gain control and.
Well, I don't believe they're stupid enough to want a world war, because that will lead to nuclear devastation.
Right.
They want hotspots all over the place so the military-industrial complex can actually supply munitions, supply arms, supply vehicles, and have them all blown up and broken up and have to supply new ones.
Right. So this
right?
is the softened version of a world war where everyone just loves to pump with more and more and more.
I think there's just going to be more and more of these forever wars. 20 years in Afghanistan.
Right.
I mean, seriously.
Yep.
Afghanistan is, what do they nickname it? The graveyard of empires. No one's conquered Afghanistan. Even Alexander didn't conquer Afghanistan. Afghanistan is called the graveyard of empires. Zbigniew Brzezinski he actually did the manipulation that got Russia to go into Afghanistan back in the 70s, I think it was, 70s or 80s. And he bragged about it. He said, we gave Russia their Vietnam.
Right.
So the US economy is, unfortunately, there's all these war hawks there, and they just want to push money into their donors' pockets so that they get got all the money they need to get re-elected and keep power.
History teaches us that these things always blow up at some point, and
yep.
you know, it's as much as we want to think that we are unbeatable and we are smarter and better. History repeats itself under different different names or different shapes or different structures, but it always repeats itself. And same is here. It's inevitable at some point.
Yeah, look, war is inevitable. There's just for whatever reasons. But I just look at look at that and I like, okay, well, how can we use that to our own benefit? We can't make that. We look at opportunities, investment opportunities as they arrive. We take what we can as far as opportunities are concerned. But just knowing and understanding basic economics and some global political nous, for want of a better word, you can avoid getting yourself seriously hurt. Right, and like I said, the crash in 2007, equities markets, right? That just basically, you just know that it's not going to continue. A 4.5-year bull run will not continue. It's going to end, and the signs were there. The increased volatility coming from August in 2007, coming into the end of 2007, and just bang, they just went. Markets just went. Basically, November, December 2007.
That was my introduction to
knowing and understanding that and taking advantage by going short using CFDs. You can just learn a bit of basic economics and look at what you're doing. Acquire skills.
That was my introduction to the trading world.
Yeah. Just acquire skills and make things work.
Which currencies? I'm leaving the wars and everything aside, but for the next interesting question, I want to ask you, looking how to phrase it properly. Which currencies do you believe are going to be the leading ones in 2024? I know you mentioned ruble. It was an absolutely brilliant story from the cheapest currency in the world right after the sanctions and everything shifted, and it's very, very far from being done. Which other currencies do you believe have a potential to be?
They're going to have to get their inflation under control before the currencies start to strengthen. The inflation is the big thing at the moment with most world currencies. The cable is a painful pair to work with. It just spends too much time ranging. It doesn't really give good, clean directional runs a lot. Power New Zealand, as you know, was one of my favourites, and it went to a stage for 2 or 3 years where it basically channeled sideways and didn't do much as well. So they all come and go. They all have their phases. They all go for good runs. It's just
you believe in the cable.
Look, it's a fairly strong pair, but it doesn't really get really strongly directional a lot of the time. It basically channels sideways.
True.
A lot of it. When you have a look at the history on the cable, there's a lot of sideways channeling on that and very few clean runs.
True. It's interesting you mentioned that, though.
Cable,
I also
cable, I prefer the cable to be bouncing from an extremity rather than trying to take it mid-run on that.
And what's your opinion about the yen? How weak can that go?
Well, the BOJ moves it every time they want to move it. They make the yen go to where they want it to be. It's just pure manipulation by the BOJ.
It used to be the Swiss until they found some sort of stability in their manipulation. Now the yen is the yen is the new currency.
Well, I mean, the franc's an interesting one. When they decoupled from the euro back in 2014, January of 2014. Or was it 15? I can't remember
15,
now.
15. I remember this painful day.
14th of January 2015, yeah.
Yep.
You know, why did all the central banks not go broke over that?
Yep.
Because they all knew it was happening.
Yep.
They don't do anything that's going to hurt the other central banks because they're private cartels. They're all cartelled together.
Do you think same is due to happen with the yen?
That was coming. I saw a descending pennant on one of the franc pairs, and I shorted it 3 days before the decoupling. I
remember you mentioned that. Do you think this is due to happen with the yen also at some point?
No, I don't think so, because there's just too much manipulation from the BOJ, Bank of Japan. They're moving it wherever they want it to go to. So they've got their own agenda. Yen pairs can be painful. They can go from good runs. Again, I prefer the yen. Take the yen when it's bouncing from an extremity. I don't like mid moves on that one.
Japan is already officially, well, not only them, but they are not ashamed to admit it. They are officially in a recession.
Everyone's in a recession.
Right, but they admit it.
Yeah. In Australia, if it wasn't for the fact they brought in 500,000 people last year with immigration, causing crisis of housing, there would have been officially a recession. But they import people, and then more money gets spent, so they say it's not a recession. More money's being spent.
Right.
But the services are going down. I mean, the housing crisis in Australia at the moment, it's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And they're just they're looking to bring in 750,000 people over the next 2 years. They don't have houses for them. Can't get building permits.
Right. No, it's funny. When we moved to Canada, I was joking about it yesterday with friends. We were on our way back from Niagara Falls, and we were talking about everything that happens. How inflation changed everything. When we moved to Canada, it was enough to look outside on the road when you go. SUVs were basically 70-80% of the cars on the roads.
Yep.
Today, it's somewhere around 50-50, maybe already switching the numbers that more sedans on the roads over SUVs. On we're going to smaller houses. People are not buying houses anymore. They are buying apartments. And that's what you see all around, including suburbs. The new building is basically huge, tall, buildings with tons of apartments, right? And the prices are also like skyrocketing for apartments. But the houses are basically now nobody can afford, so people go for apartments. Cars are getting smaller, but people are getting bigger. Right?
Yeah.
They eat more junk food. To try and survive the tough moments. I would say that's the price of the inflation. Everything is shrinking besides the people, right? And
crazy. Crazy stuff.
Indeed, Peter. Thanks a lot for finding the time to be in our podcast once again. I really enjoy talking to you about all these interesting subjects. You are a very knowledgeable man, and I always enjoy to see your alternative views, thoughts, insights, and inputs to everything that is sold to us. And mainstream channels. And it's important sometimes to hear the alternative way. And what for me, it's personally, it's the way of the reality, the way of the real truth. That's what people are really experiencing, but everybody is afraid to talk about that. So it's great to be able to talk about it finally. So thanks for that.
Always a pleasure.
And for all the listeners, I hope you enjoyed it at least as myself. And once again, make sure you spoil yourself with a great gift and get Peter's book. If you already read it, I salute you for that. It's really phenomenal book. And as a certified financial technician, I was reading tons of books on the subject, tons of books. None is as close to Peter's. Not because Peter is teaching you there's some basic nonsense, but because and you will see that in the book, down to earth explanation, step by step on how each pattern should be implemented, when, how, with real examples of trades. Make sure you read it. Thank me later. So the link you can find below this video in the description. Peter, once again, thank you, and enjoy Panama. Enjoy the beautiful sun there and the beautiful views you have.
Well, just to make you jealous, we're currently paying, what is it, $2.20 a kilo for chicken.
Jealous it is. Jealous it is. We pay, I don't even know how much, 14, 16?
Yeah, when we left Australia nearly 10 or 9.5 years ago, we were paying $10 a kilo then.
Now it's doubled.
Probably,
yeah. Same here.
At one stage, about 18 months ago, a lettuce was $15 for a lettuce.
Crazy days. What can we do?
Okay, mate. Well, it's been a pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you very much. Best to you. Hi to Janice, and enjoy your day. Thanks for being here with us. Thanks for you guys for watching. Feel free to ask anything in the comment section and share your views to the subject we discussed. How do you think all the inflation, wars, elections are going to affect the market? Let us know in the comments. Best to everyone. See you soon.
Have a great day, mate.
Thank you.